Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the Final Frontier.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with me, your host, Rich Matthews, and my fellow intrepid voyagers, Mr. Ian Spelling.
Hey there, everybody.
And Mr. Toby Weidman.
Hello.
And today we've got our first recurring guest. Dr. Trek is back, everyone. It's Mr. Larry Nemecek.
Woohoo! He's back and he's recurring and you're stuck with him. Yeah.
it's
never stuck.
Larry Nemecek Part 2.
Oh, no.
And today's theme is an interesting one, actually. We're going to do our top 5. Some of us have ranked them. I'm not sure everyone has. Canon refits. And by that we mean things which have been changed on screen within Star Trek, which then they've had to explain in bunny ears or make work, or, in some cases, brush under the proverbial warp carpet. Hopefully no one notices. And this is a theme that's come from Larry, which is an interesting one, because it's something it often gets discussed, but we haven't really come across this in this sort of forum before.
Not industrialized and listicle and.
I think one of the things that I found is that the refitting or the retconning, a lot of the times I feel kind of opposed to it, which has been reflected in my list, actually.
You mean the concept of even doing it, or the specific things that have...
What has happened as a result of it, yeah.
Interesting. Well, we'll get into it, and we like our guests to kick off, basically to stop us from jammering away like fools too much.
Well, when it's the brand, that's...
Actually, personally, I'm here to hear Rich jammer on, but go on.
As if. I get cut down at the knees so regularly.
Okay, after I got rolling on this, it was hard to get down to just 5. I seem to come up with some smaller ones bigger than... I'm going to save the bigger ones for later. How about this? I'll start old school for one thing. How about back in... They'd only been on for 2 years. How about back with the original series using the new Klingon D7 model, but using it for Romulans because they basically lost or it was destroyed. All the different theories of what happened to the original Bird of Prey Romulan model, but using the new Matt Jeffries Klingon design. I think really people watching saw it as a Romulan before they ever saw it as a Klingon. I think Enterprise Incident was before any of the other uses. But retconning and coming up with the on-screen dialogue line of, oh, well, look, it's a Klingon ship. Well, there's a treaty, supposedly, and we've got intelligence. Anyway, it was, I think in 1969, we barely had 2 years of anybody thinking about this as an audience. But it's fun to watch that later on, and look that they went to all the, especially in a Freddie Freiberger year, they went to all the trouble to explain why you're seeing a ship that the audience really wouldn't know anyway. Anyway, that's always amused me. As the years have gone by, that amuses me more and more.
Yeah, because it wasn't really a thing, was it, at that point? And I suppose this might be one of the first examples of that being done. Certainly no one cared if someone changed something on Gunsmoke, necessarily, or something like that.
Not just that, but the fact that they took Bird of Prey, and that got applied to a Klingon ship.
Only because the rewrites on Star Trek 3 were Romulans.
Romulans.
No one changed the ship description when they, marked out Romulan and wrote in Klingon at first.
I'm fine with that as long as you don't get into the whole, is it Birds of Prey or Bird of Preys and all that. That discussion, whenever I hear it, makes me want to just jump out my window. That's interesting. So my number 5 is also quite small, and it is a design point. It was the Trill redesign that happened because the first time, which was in The Host on TNG, wasn't it? He sort of had this Odan had this sort of headpiece and things and foreheady thing, and then they took the design that Famke Janssen wore in the episode later, wasn't it? The spots, and they put that on to Terry Farrell for Terry Farrell, didn't they? I believe, and it doesn't ever really get said, does it?
They call it a parasite, don't they? the symbiote. I
Oh,
believe.
in the host, yeah,
Yeah.
they do, yeah.
And it's a parasitical relationship that they have, which is changed completely after that. That never crops up again.
And they don't really discuss either the ramifications of popping it into Riker, do they? In the same way, and it's really interesting because when we talked to Armin for when he guested, we talked about how they changed the makeup design on the Ferengi when they did Quark, and it wasn't meant to be that way. And it's interesting that DS9 sort of has all these tiny little, and these are where their retconning comes. It's sort of nudging designs and moving it, because the Trill, it was doing that and just doing the spots for Terry Farrell made cosplayers' life so much easier.
Or did it when they have to learn how to do all of this all the way down?
Well, you can do that with a pen if you really want. The other thing, it requires, a pasty stuck on it.
It's just a stencil, isn't it? And they just spray it on.
They wish. No,
Not the purists.
like Westmar would say, that's why he numbered every day. And then when they brought her back, was it 477 something? They know the number of the last day.
Wow.
Every day he would, just up and do it. Quirky little, thing. Oh, the first of many, or the middle of many species to have that. Of course, now, thanks to the Discovery era and later, everybody says, oh, look, we're so much more alert and aware. It's just species diversity. You're like, well, okay, I don't know if that covers,
I think morphology of physiology is not diversity necessarily. It's So, Ian, what's your number 5?
All right, I'm going to go with a classic Ian tie
Oh.
because I could not come up with 5, although my number 1 may be impermissible on our list. So maybe 5 becomes 5 and 6 becomes 5. 5 becomes 4 and everything moves up. I don't know. I'm an English major, not math. Yes, I'm going to go with Spock and Andorians for number 5. We went from Nimoy to Quinto to Peck. Those are 3 very different iterations of the most arguably beloved character in all of Star Trek. We're talking 60 years of Star Trek, and I think it comes down to Spock and Kirk as the 2 favorites, and I think Spock probably wins out because he's the most science fiction-y and diverse as a character. Nimoy did remarkable work. I'm generally favorable of Quinto's performances. I wish the writing were a little better for what he got to do, and I think Ethan Peck has had a lot to do and done a wonderful job playing our current version of the character. To have this unbelievable science fiction character in this universe who gives us logic and yet heart and also humor, who has been consequentially developed over all of this time, there's no question in my mind he belongs on the list. Then you get to the Andorians and you've got Jeff Combs. I'm sorry, man. He took a nothing character from the original series that was kind of a visual piece of uniqueness and turned it into a insanely cool, creepy, interesting, dangerous, ultimately complemented by Mike Westmore's remarkable work. No question in my mind that the Andorians belong on our list, and it's showing some love to Enterprise, which in general on the podcast and among fans is a little bit of a lesser favorite among favorites, shall we say. So, those would be my choices. And also, if we throw the Anar in there, you got Bruce Horak, who I thought did a remarkable job, and that's also an absolutely amazing physical-looking character. The prosthetics on him were just remarkable. So,
Agreed.
there you go.
Tobes.
Could you not pass that thinking on to like the Cardassians and Mark Alamo building
You mean like the
that kind of
Cardassian
character?
mustache?
Yeah, the changes that happened there, and also the Ferengi with Armen, and how
You
that
could,
changed
but,
from next gen to.
Yeah, just happens to be my choice. Yeah, I mean, Ferengi evolved quite a bit as well. But I'd call that more
Deepening.
makeup upgrades than complete overhauls of the character. We had absolutely nothing on the Andorians in the original series. And, subsequently, we got a lot more. And a lot of that was because they devoted time and script and performance, to the characters, to the species.
Tobes.
I've not numbered mine. I didn't find it easy to rank these, so mine are
I was
kind of...
being nice when I generalised, you know.
Yeah,
I wasn't
I
going to
know.
zero
I
in
know.
on you.
He took it literally.
But because of what you've just said, I am going to plump for this one. I've titled my ones in a typical Edda kind of way. So I've called this Close Encounters of the First Kind. And if I was to say these 3 episodes to you, Acquisition, Regeneration, and Babel 1, hopefully that suggests what I'm talking about. And let me begin by saying I actually really like all 3 of these episodes as standalone stories. But in terms of canon and continuity, they probably shouldn't exist. So maybe this is less a canon refit and more
Canon
almost
violation.
a deliberate continuity error. I think even Brannon Braga has said that they should never have done the Ferengi in Enterprise. I think the biggest problem is that so no images or reports existed from these encounters that later characters would pick up like data.
Yeah.
I mean, they did go to some effort to try and obfuscate the situation in that they don't name the Ferengi, they don't name the Borg. They do say that the Borg's message will take at least 200 years to reach the destination.
Cybernetic organism.
Exactly.
Yeah, what could that
exactly.
be?
So they are trying to fit in, and you could even argue that the first contact with the Ferengi was actually in Roswell in 1947, couldn't you? So
yeah, but we'll forgive that one.
yeah.
The records weren't as good then, and
But they clearly filmed them.
Awareness
So-
is 9/10 of the law, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
I say in all instances, it does feel like a little act of desperation from the showrunners to boost ratings by putting in a familiar race to, put out
They
the
never do
images
that now.
through the press and
They never do that now. Black, white, background.
I think the possible exception is maybe the Romulans, and I feel this does work because that provides the impetus for the founding of the Federation, with the 4 founding races, the Terrans, the Andorians, the Vulcans, and the Tellarites coming together. They're forced to work together to defeat and expose the Romulans. And the irony there is that the Romulans caused the very thing that they were concerned about by creating this superpower. So, yeah, it's just a general thing about should these have been introduced? Is it a refit? Maybe not.
Well, it is. They just don't address it properly because they've dropped them before they came to be before First Contact. So it is technically a refit.
Well, now that I know that we're just lumping all kinds of things into one big bin.
We do not lump.
Okay. I'll try to de-lump this. This is kind of an odd one. It seems like the poor Klingons get stuck with this. I'm going to say my number 4 is Next Generation, explaining why the Klingon Empire, we never saw an emperor until we did, and coming up with the whole backstory about Kahless and the fact that we have a chancellor over a council instead of why are they at Empire, which is very obscure, I know, but I thought, hey, these are safe. Like no one else is going to get as obscure as this.
As
I'm
somebody who
hedging
comes
my
from
bets against what you guys are coming up. I've got some spare. I got some errors and a spare here that I can pop in case somebody takes one.
I'm pretty sure that we are going to
Emperor.
talk about the Klingons probably quite a bit more. Certainly I am.
Yeah, there'll be
Okay,
some
so
brown
I'm zipping
furrowing.
in with that one. That just some of these started after I got going. Some of these just started popping in. I'm like, okay, well, and then it's do we lump these together under a category? And I thought, no, I'll hedge my bets in these early rounds a little bit because I saw what happened last time I joined you folk. I was madly
learning.
re-scribbling.
Go for it. No,
And
no,
you're stupid enough to come back, Larry.
Yeah.
Who's that on?
Yeah.
Just for the glamour of being recurring. That's all it was. Yeah.
So my number 4 then is the decision to make Bashir genetically engineered. I think it's only through the skill and rhythm that Sid had developed in the character by that point that allowed that to even work at all. Because by that point, we don't have the Callow Bashir of earlier in the show, who
Thank goodness.
you'd be like, how is that guy genetically engineered? But by the time you get where we get to when they unveil it, I still don't really understand why they did it. And it does colour a lot of the character's progression and development and achievements. It feels like it was a deceit, a mirror, like a Clark Kent thing.
rather than him genuinely deepening and then writing Bashir better, and his relationships with Dax and with his friendships with Dax and with O'Brien changing him and making him a better person. Suddenly it feels a bit like that's a bit hollow, just for the sake of one storyline, really. And especially because they'd already done a good bait and switch with Bashir on DS9 when he was the one that turned out to be the Changeling, which was a really good example of using that character. It was a total shock. This was always a bit of a betrayal of the character, and they didn't. Once they'd done it and they sort of worked through it a bit, they basically let it go. It was because it annoyed people. I believe Sid didn't like it either.
The real
Somebody
betrayal is on Miles, and that he's been cheating at darts for
I was going to say
yeah.
that's
years.
Yeah. Well, precisely. So it's all of that. It's like, so that was a choice which triggered a sort of headcanon refitting, and then they brush it aside under the proverbial carpet because fans didn't like it.
It's an interesting choice. I would just argue that that's more of a character evolution. I mean, every character had their version of that in some way, shape, or form, and to varying degrees. But I get it. Like, just for argument's sake, Spock worked because it's several actors that played the same role, whereas I didn't go there. It's an interesting choice, Rich.
Some of this goes to define exactly what you mean by retcon, because I'm seeing you guys take that and stretch it in directions I hadn't thought.
We stretch it like Stretch Armstrong with some of these things, no question. My number 4 is definitely the Gorn, for the same reason as the Andorians. I thought Strange New Worlds did a really good job of taking a what the hell is this rubber costumed guy fighting in slow motion against our hero into a truly alien creature that was dangerous and interesting and violent and without limits, and had a whole reproductive cycle that we didn't know about, and what's the term? Apex predator comes to mind, and that is also just leaps and bounds in terms of building on what came before, instead of a silly rubber costume that was, I'm sure, silly when people watched it in the 60s, to this unbelievable combination of performance mixed with prosthetics, CGI, and I believe animatronics were used as well.
It's really good, isn't it?
To pull off this horror of a creature. I mean, this really does take Star Trek into the realm of horror.
The xenomorph, almost.
Yeah, I mean, we are a long way from Arena. There's just no question about it. It took a little bit of a joke of a character and turned it into something, scary and really entertaining. And again, I go back to Bruce Horak really breathing life into the first one that we really got to know on Strange New World. So let me rephrase that. Him being the impetus for the evil that the Gorn had become. Let's put it that way, is the better way of phrasing it.
Andorian evolution in the same bowl as the Gorn. To me, the Andorians were just an empty slate, just a blank slate. There's lots of things in Star Trek that are mentioned once and could stand with a fill-in. And the Gorn to me was like I got it, but it was really a challenge for not just the fact that it was a 1966 rubber suit, but everything that was set up that you thought you knew. But then that's what Discovery did. That's what Strange New did, is the things you sat with for 20 or 30 or 40 years. Here's a new take on it, and you want to get there, like you want to go through the checklist of 20 things, and you go, okay. And if it's just a matter of people can go along for 100 years and have no clue about things, like Vulcans have a pon farr? What is that about? We've known you for 100 years. Where did that come from? Or 200 years. And so, but I get it. I think of them slightly differently, but I get it. Yeah.
No, I mean, again, it's the whole thing of, look, Lower Decks specialized in that, taking the obscure and suddenly giving it life. Yeah. Right?
I would choose the pack leads over the Gorn any day.
I'm sure you would.
Well, if I had to meet one, yeah.
No question.
Toes.
Things to make us talk.
I've called this one Nobody Expects the Roddenberry Inquisition. It's
the Inquisition. What a show.
It's related to Deep Space Nine and the episode called Inquisition. which was Michael Dorn's second directorial episode, just for course of reference. I think the biggest criticism aimed at Deep Space Nine is that it is antithetical to Roddenberry's utopian vision.
Obfuscate, antithetical. This is my job. You're stealing my thunder.
The introduction of Section 31, it was created by Ira Stephen Bear as a way to examine the darker side of Starfleet and the Federation, and those things had been explored in such episodes as Past Tense and Homefront, For the Cause, Michael Eddington's storyline, that there is something that isn't quite right with Starfleet or the Federation. And then we get introduced to Section 31, which is this sort of KGB agency, Black Ops. I mean, if you want to really push it, Gestapo-esque agency working behind the scenes. And I remember when it was introduced that it did receive some vitriol from fans, and understandably, I don't think this would have been something that Roddenberry would have approved of at all.
Let alone Crouching Tiger, Hidden Emperor. I
really liked them. I like those episodes that they are in. I think Sloane is a fantastic character, played by William Sadler.
You like a dark thing they introduced.
I know, what a surprise. But the thing is that they are not overused. That's key to me. They serve a purpose and then they disappear back into the background, which is what a shadowy organisation should do. It's revealed then in Enterprise that Section 31 has gone all the way back. So that means the whole Kirk era. It's also in Discovery that there has been Section 31 working behind the scenes, and so that utopian vision that Roddenberry had created with the original series and Next Generation didn't exist because they've written in that Section 31 was always there. And I think that's just an interesting retconning of the Federation. It's something that I approve of. I do like Section 31. It gets worse and worse the more and more you go on. I'm less keen on it when it's in Discovery, and I really don't like the titular movie that we have discussed plenty of times before. But it's one of those things that I think it works in the Deep Space Nine world. I kind of almost wish that they had left it there, and that it was just had been created as part of the fear over the Dominion War, and then it closed. But
the Dominion War was the biggest existential threat. I mean, they'd had wars, but it wasn't the same insidious. I suppose conspiracy would have been the only version that would have that alien invasion.
But that's not within.
No, that's what I mean. That's the only event.
That's something infecting rather than.
Yeah, that's the only event which would have
created.
triggered an equivalent organisation to form.
I've got two other points of note, and the first one is that Sloane, I didn't know this until I was researching it, was named after Peter Brack's character in the film Shock Corridor.
Oh, really?
Which is a great film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And the other one is, do you remember what episode immediately follows Inquisition in Deep Space Nine?
Not off the top of my head.
Off the top of my head.
In the Pale Moonlight.
One of the happier episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Exactly. So it's we talk about the Roddenberry would not have approved of Section 31. He wouldn't have approved of Sisko's decision in the Pale Moonlight.
No. But he wouldn't have probably gone for the whole Dominion storyline to that extent, I don't think. Probably. I mean, I can't. Having never met him, I couldn't speak to it. I know that Ian and Larry, you both have more experience.
I was just going to say, I put Section 31 the same place I put Visiting the Mirror Universe. It's like it's great to do. It's a contrast, feature. It's just a dramatic thing to give you a contrast. And it threw people. It's like everything else. It's so many things. It threw you, but the more you went along. When they first introduced Section 31 in DS9, even before you had the chronology throwback of Enterprise, and it was like canonized. But at the time, I remember thinking, okay, well, if they've really been around this long, it was hazy in the beginning. See, I could totally see things like the Pegasus mission that's subverting, the Treaty of Sharon. We just didn't call it that. I could totally see, because one thing that's always bugged me the more the years have gone on is how the hell Kirk and Spock just waltz into the Enterprise incident so easily. It's a treaty violation, and they put the whole ship at risk. I know it's because it was a...
Larry, are you saying that Kirk was working for Section 31?
No, I'm just saying working for, not full-time agent, but getting sucked in. And that's a thing that got developed. That's a concept that got developed as people being pulled in and out and, which, I mean, Reed was doing it in Enterprise. I was in, I got out, and now I'm being pulled back, but I'm going to resist the urge to. I'm just saying that you could look back over, not production timeline, but chronological timeline and see maybe that it existed. And then it's gone all over the map in the different iterations, which drives some people crazy, but it makes, since we've got centuries to look at with 100-year gaps in between, the way you mentioned it a little bit, but the way Section 31 has, sometimes they've been more out in the open, and then they've been scandalized and they've gone underground, but not, it feels like it's had a life that comes and goes. And there's a reason why we don't tell stories with it. It's not out in the open until it is, or what's going on in the outer, what's the dangers of the day when things are bright and shiny, when it's the shiny, happy 90s, maybe not so much, but when it's the Cold War 50s or post 9/11 terrorism day, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like it has reacted, and it hasn't been the same critter in the 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th centuries. Anyway, but I don't want to live there. I don't want a Section 31 show. And I was like,
or a movie.
The movie had a lot of problems. They didn't even get to what I was concerned about. They just needed to.
The thing is, it is an intriguing concept, but it's something that writers in future series have picked it up and as something that, we can do something darker and, break away from the conventions of the Prime Directive and things like that. It's been used as an excuse to do it rather than good storytelling.
But as far as would Gene have done it, is it a retcon? I just, even though it was third season and Gene was stepping away, but Dorothy wrote it, or primarily wrote it, so the Enterprise incident. So there, that's the shining. And there's little elements here and there around the edges as I know they were revolving the format like everything else, but it's not as pristine as we want to think the original series at times. So.
What's your number 3, Larry?
Why was I talking so much? I'm going to say this was a self-own that was a fix. I loved how people were groaning through, as recently as the first season of Discovery, about holocoms and long-distance comms and touchscreens. And then by the end of the first season, as the generations of writers settled in, the writers by the end of the first season and leading into second season with Pike, the whole thing about holocom, I was kidding around. I said, they're going to figure out that holocoms cause cancer and they'll back away from it. They just went with the very mundane, it's somehow we've got these weird system failures happening, which was never really as very satisfying. But they went there. They was like, we have to figure out a way to write these out because this is ridiculous. And they did. And it's like, so Disco comes in and retcons itself within a year on top of, anyway. I just think that was very telling and good on them for doing it because, again, we went through 3 iterations of writing teams or overlaps just getting to that first season.
It reminded me of a bad version of the warp speed limitation to solve the ships go too fast, which again got thrown out by Spore Drive or
Yeah.
It really wasn't about the ships go too fast. It was, let's do an environmental show and we'll use the warp drive. That's what it was. It was.
And then how do we ignore that later?
And
emergency use.
Everybody will have hinging nacelle pylons. That'll do it.
Didn't they have to come up with some story about Discovery in Starfleet Academy and why it wasn't available to leap through the wall of bombs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they mothballed it, didn't they?
The spore drive would have set them off or something like that. Yeah. Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, it's almost only a little bit flimsier than where was the Enterprise during the Dominion War, or where was the Enterprise during the Klingon War? That century's Enterprise.
Yeah, well, they did do that, didn't they? Well, we had to. I know we were all frustrated. We had to sit out the battles. Well, yeah, Pike in the most powerful ship in the fleet.
While the rest of us are in an existential.
Yeah, stay over there, most powerful ship in the fleet. Stay there. My number 3 is Strange New Worlds related. It's a case in point of going, if it worked for the Terminator franchise, it'll work for us, which is the moving feast of the eugenics wars timeline.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah, where it was in the 1990s, and then it was like, obviously, well, that's not happened, and then they move it to, because we've had a temporal Cold War, so surely that might have, there'll be some temporal shenanigans that move it down. And then, while we're at it, let's make the eugenics war and World War III the same thing. Just because it's going to get a bit mucky if we have to keep moving both. It's, bonkers.
And if there's another series in 20 or 30 years, it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Well, no, surely the worst aspect of that is Khaaaan,
and
Yeah.
Spock.
And Khaaaan, the name Khaaaan and all that. It's just like,
I mean,
that's
you've
all in
mentioned
that
this
as well.
before. There is going to be, if we are saying this is canon timeline, at some point, wouldn't Spock have said to Khaaaan-Noonien Singh, I used to know someone called that.
Yeah.
In fact, we were
Rather
bonking
well.
for a little bit.
Less Khaaaan and more Khaaaan?
Yeah.
Well,
I knew
we
a
have
Khaaaan.
16 episodes of
Maybe
Strange
they'll
New-
address it.
to come. Maybe they'll address it. Well, that.
I
but
mean, they
also,
won't, but maybe.
We've been laughing about, I must have slept through the Eugenics War in the 90s, right? For ages.
Yeah.
And then Glenn
Yeah.
Cox does his, he comes up with this idea, okay, we're going to say it was a quiet, secret war that we didn't know was happening. And all this was, okay, if you're going to come in and say, oh, temporal war, misaligned just because we've lived with it for 30 and 40 and 50 years in our heads that this is what's happened, then, and Enterprise built on that, then okay. But if you're going to do that, then don't just come in and blow it up. This is one of my rantiest of all rants right now, because I don't think this is going to happen. If you're going to blow it up, then give us the new playbook, give us the new manual. And I don't think Akiva and that gang are going to do it. I think they're just going to blow it up and then walk away. And once again, fans over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years will come in and eventually work out a retcon for what the hell's going on.
I was just waiting for the Terminator line, which was, Judgment Day is inevitable. Is it now? Because otherwise your franchise doesn't work. Just because James Cameron fixed it at the end of Terminator 2. It's the same thing. And it was just like, oh my word, okay, brilliant. So there you go, that's my number
Well,
3.
we've just done an episode talking about JJ's films and the whole mystery box aspect of it. And there are plenty of questions that Strange New Worlds have posed.
And what's funny is we never mentioned the 2 words that matter the most with the JJ episode, red matter.
Because that's my trigger. Don't.
Yeah.
I'll be worse than Larry if I get on that.
My
the Red
number
Bull
3,
MacGuffin stuff in.
the Delta Shield.
Okay.
So yeah, I was really close to including this.
It's really cool because it's not a ship, it's not a character, it's not a species, it's a prop. But this prop has evolved like crazy. I mean, right now it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of communicator and everything else if we go deep into, the 900-year jump on Discovery, right? But, and literally it's a little bit of everything. But I would pinpoint Robert Fletcher's retcon of it for the motion picture as what jumped out for me back in the day. Because obviously the uniforms were different and it looked like pajamas. So when you're looking at this non-color, this monochrome thing that these characters are wearing, the thing that actually popped out was literally the Delta Shield. And it came to have some meaning, right? I mean, it represented Starfleet as it stands now, which was very different from what it was when it was created.
That became all of it instead of just command.
Correct. Now, there have been multiple variations of it across the series, across the movies, a little bit of everything going on with it. But just that evolution just shows that it is a really malleable device. Look, the tricorder was always the tricorder. The communicator was always the communicator. But the stupid Delta Shield is the, chameleon of devices and props.
It's a chair
on
base.
Star Trek.
It's a rug. It's a belt buckle.
Starfleet Academy is definitely the worst in terms of the deltas on absolutely
Look at
everything.
even have it shaved into their heads.
Right? So, anyway, that's my number 3.
All right, which one shall I go for now? I'll tell you what, I'm going to do The Tragic Tale of a Young Woman Called Christine Chapel. In the original series, Nurse Chapel...
Is that your subtitle for the...
Yeah.
It's the bottom half of the cover.
So in the original series, Nurse Chapel, capable medic, good supportive assistant to Dr. McCoy, who he describes her as a top nurse. She became chief medical officer of the Enterprise until McCoy returned. But there was one thing that we knew about Christine Chapel and in that first 5-year mission is that she was infatuated with Commander Spock. She even used a love potion on him, albeit in the non-canonical animated series.
She gave him soup though too. Don't forget the soup.
Rebuffed by Spock at every turn, and
Not now.
Not anymore!
Now he softened a little bit in the original series. There were times.
Oh, no,
he
he's still
did
hard.
a little bit. He called her
I was gonna say,
Christine.
he's gone the opposite way now. for
Somebody
sure,
got my
Larry.
joke, okay.
Definitely
I saw what you
harder.
did there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I missed
thank
it.
you,
I missed
thank
what
you.
you said.
Spock was a bit stiff.
Okay. I think this is one of the most egregious canon rewrites in New Trek is the Chapel-Spock relationship. Because what it does is it recontextualizes Chapel from the original series. Because now her kind of infatuation with Spock seems like some kind of stalkerish obsession.
Oh, because she's jilted.
Yeah.
Well, she also friend zones him.
Yeah, but equally, his reaction to her seems like very, very callous and borderline abusive.
Yeah, especially because he starts pon-farring all over the place.
Yeah.
After that as well.
However you reframe this, I just don't like it as an idea. And I'm not arguing that Nurse Chapel was my favourite character in the original series.
She's better in She's got more to
I agree with that
Jess Bush is given a lot more to do, for sure.
I just don't like that they put them into a relationship and you know how that impacts the original series. If they did Star Trek Year One, you know what's she going to be? She's going to be like this mopey chasing after Spock, and he's going to be going.
And to reference the Kelvin thing again, the Kelvin episode again, there's also this idea that the way you add nuance and depth to one of the female characters is to get her to screw Spock. That's Sahara, that's Chapel, that's Lan. Why? That's Kirk's domain, right? Surely.
Well, the thing about all the legacy characters that have been part of Strange New, whether you were expecting it or not, is it's not season 1 of TOS. It's not 2266 yet. And I say this about Spock, about Chapel, even about Mbenga, about Uhura, although Uhura is the least problematical of all of them. And T'Pring even. Scotty, now that we've seen a Scotty, it's like I just keep thinking, okay, how do we get from here to here? And sometimes it's exciting. Like, I want to know what's going on with Mbenga because this seems like there's a lot of rich texture that you can mine here. Now what they've done with him with his PTSD and all that. But Spock and Chapel, it's like, well, there's going to be some. I kept thinking, are they really going to bring in Roger Corby? Oh, they have. Now, so far it feels like they've kind of fumbled it, but because half of it's been the reset episode, right, with Trelane, whatever. But if they would pull off and do something, it would really give some. It's like looking at Sarek in a new light after what people were upset about what was done with Michael. But if you pull back and look at Vulcans, you know, our perception of Vulcans has gone so far off knocking them off the pedestal that Spock brought to them. And now Vulcans are, even when they're not being infiltrated by Romulans, they're devious, and Sarek is an interesting bird, and he's done this now to 2 of his kids. Anyway, it's that kind of reimagining of a character. Just, you're not wiping out canon points, you're just looking at tones differently. And it may not be it. I don't think it should be a negative about Chapel, like you were saying, about a new lens to look at the original series. But it would do something. But right now, we've got 16 hours to go, and I don't know what's going to come out of Corby. I just look at all those characters and say, wow, there's really going to be some trauma. Spock goes from being totally open about his relationships to being totally closed. Like, I learned my lesson with...
It's impossible for them to get from Strange New Worlds to the original series in terms of Chapel and Spock's relationship.
But I'm just saying what's going to happen in one day. And, you know, Corby goes away when supposedly the first time we see Chapel, although she's been on before, is it's all wrapped up and I'm looking for Roger. And
don't you worry, Larry, we're going to get on to Michael Burnham.
Okay,
I
better zip it. Okay.
So what's your number 2, Larry?
Why do I always talk the most before it's my time?
We wonder that too, Larry.
So did my mom.
You're a chatty Larry, that's why.
Chatty Larry. No relation to Cassie, by the way.
I'm hedging my, I'm the first in every round. I'm gonna hedge my bets just in case. I'm gonna go with, since you guys have kind of stretched this, I'm gonna go this way too. I'm gonna thank Enterprise, which the more I went through these, I kept coming up with Enterprise points, which by the end was really went from 0 to 60 as far as having the fanboys and fangirls in charge. I'm going to say that Enterprise, after we had been dealing 40 years, speaking of Khan and the eugenically bred Superman, the genetically altered, engineered Superman, having nothing better to call them than the genetically bred Superman and the genetically altered Super. I'm just going to thank Enterprise for coming up with a simple term for all of that, the augments. Which now feels like it's been around forever. And the augment virus, even with... Okay. I just want to say thank you for giving us a term we can hang on to and everyone knows exactly what we're saying without that awkward long one. Now it's a simple one, but it's also powering. And some of the best retcons, people think of them. This is why I always tell people I have a phrase: texture, not trivia. When you see something that goes totally counter to what you thought, maybe it is a bomb, maybe it is a groaner, but so many times a retcon, it's the exception that proves the rule, right? You can still have the vast majority of cases, but you've got dramatic texture, you've got character texture, but a lot of times it unleashes a whole new direction to go in that you were never about to enter before. And that's what I feel like, coming up with a term and getting them back, instead of kind of avoiding the whole eugenics war and con and all that and leaving it just its little bit, to broaden the scope. And so I almost feel like the key to that is just giving them a term that you can hang to, and devoting some screen time and doing a trilogy out of it. But anyway, I'm gonna give props to that.
Larry, I could not agree with you 1,000% more than I do. Sometimes the best retcons are the ones that people forget were ever retcons. And that covers your point exactly. I totally agree with you. That's a really good outside the box choice. I tended to stay in the box with mine, although the Delta Shield was probably outside of the box. But I'm gonna.
I think you've been full of outside the box choices, but they're all good. But go.
But I'm gonna go with Klingons for my number 2.
That's my number 2.
Well, I have Klingons in my
two.
list as well.
That's my number two.
For better or worse, the Klingons. I mean, look, we went from our
We don't talk about it with outsiders, Ian.
Yes, I know. But we are going to. I mean, has visually a species evolved more? Or let me rephrase that: devolved more. I mean, how do you want to put it? They went from smooth-headed to wrinkly to you name it. I mean, they have. To the ridges, to the
naturally expanding skulls and retracting.
Yeah, I mean, day and night from beginning to discovery and so on.
Yeah, but timeline-wise, they went from ridges
back
to
and
smooth
forth.
heads
to
ridges
And
to smooth heads to ridges.
Some of them, only the ones that we saw, right? Because they were on
I would go.
Let's not go into that excuse.
In the frontier.
But just think about.
This is the fan bullshit that comes.
But think about the magical work that was done by these guys. I mean, Fletcher back in the day, and Fred and everybody doing what they did on the original series. And Fletcher on the motion picture, obviously. To the work that Mike Westmore did, to the stuff that Neville Page and Glenn Hetrick did for the more current stuff. It's remarkable. Now, does it work in terms of character evolution? That's up for grabs. Some of it feels a little arbitrary. Like, let's just make wholesale changes. Let's have pale white Klingons that are 90 feet tall.
To draw yours and Larry's points together, of course, on Enterprise, it's a botched augment thingy, isn't it, that does it to the Klingons?
Yeah, and they try to explain it away.
Well, it's a mutagen, isn't it? It's a mutagen.
Yeah. They've tried to explain it away a couple of times. You're talking cranial anatomy. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy reasons. Seriously, budget was a factor in some of these decisions.
Discovery one was a nightmare, must have been.
Right. I mean, absolute crazy stuff. And again, you can spread the diversity across, what are we talking, 24 houses? Right? Not every house needs to look exactly the same.
But see, that was the Discovery contribution, which, correct, as much as you wanted to jaw drop over what they had done, the Klingon Empire is, it's a big galaxy, Mr. Scott. And the idea that we went from here's the uniformity to, it really does kind of make more sense. Did they colonize every planet off of Kronos, or did some of those have, their own version of remans? Did they have some organically...
Right. Did the augment virus do it for you in the sense of, okay, that's a reasonable enough explanation?
None of it does.
Yeah, it's all.
Larry?
It's all we had, but half of it was the battle. Look, people say, "Oh, that was just Mike and Manny, getting anal fan," and we didn't have to. Renee and Ron and the entire DS9 staff wanted to talk about it during Tribulations, 10 years earlier. And they just realized it was going to bog down the plot. That whole line about we don't talk about that, you were laughing, that we don't talk about the outsiders was their way of acknowledging it, even if they couldn't get into the detail.
That's where they should have left it at, Larry.
Yes,
they should have just left it at that point.
But they wanted to show everybody that they were totally aware of that, and that they didn't want it to just be, it's just budget, move on.
I think that's what that line does.
Yeah.
It says
Yeah,
we
and it's
acknowledge
good.
that this is something that people are talking about.
Right. Yes, it's not just. I mean, it's a funny line in the beginning, but people instantly realized they've actually addressed it on screen, on camera. So now
We haven't even talked about how the loss of one ship in the Kelvin timeline also changed the entire physiognomy of the whole race as well. That was a reboot, so you sort of go, okay. Discovery was a prequel. It was like it is the species version of the holocomms. And oops. So, but now the war's over, you can grow your hair again. Huh? What? Bonkers.
All right,
So
what's
we
our
haven't-
number one?
Well,
No,
we haven't
Toby's
even
next.
addressed.
No,
We
Toby's
haven't
next.
even addressed the change in their character from
yeah.
the original series to the next, and the swapping of the Romulan and
Yeah, that's because they were
Klingon.
Romulan.
But that
basically.
is the fault of fans and Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, in that Harve Bennett's original outline that had the Romulans as the baddie got leaked, and fans went wild on it, and so they said, well, we've got to change it up. So they changed the Romulans to the Klingons, but they didn't really change the attitude,
Yep.
which was then picked up for Next Generation, and that's why the Klingons, it became the Klingon Empire, and they became warriors with a sense of honor, and the Romulans became sneaky little bastards.
Well, after Ron Moore got his hands on them, but
All right, number one, boys.
Okay, so Larry, then you're number one.
all right.
I am upset that I didn't get to say I'm called this section a ridge too far, but there we go.
Too bad you didn't get to say that. Yeah.
Tragedy, actually.
Okay, so we got one slot left. It's again this time it's Enterprise's cell phone fix. I'm going to say I knew the Klingon forehead wouldn't last to be my number one. I'm going to say on the more obscure side, the fact that the season 4 writing team of Enterprise fixed what happened with the season 1 and 2 writing teams and introduced the idea of Romulan infiltrators on Vulcan as the reason for the bad, evil Vulcans that we saw that weren't on the pedestal with Spock in the first couple of seasons, that took a lot of adjusting and fans weren't comfortable with. And then coming up with the idea, well, for the last few hundred years, they had been slowly being maneuvered and manipulated, until the Kirshara, and we can get back to the purity of. Look at the parallel of that and the echo of that. Anyway, just the fact that they explain why the writing of the Vulcans had been done, the condescending parental vibe of the Vulcans to humans, that always made sense to me. But where they took it at times, I thought it was a great way to snap things back and have that
I agree.
exposed.
I like that one as well.
My
Anyway,
number one is actually also Vulcan related. Specifically, here's my half brother.
Yeah,
And,
this is mine as well.
And here's my adopted sister.
Stepsister?
I'm sorry I never mentioned either of them ever before to my closest friends, ever. But here they are, Cyborg and
that
Michael.
guy went through a lot of trauma between. I'm telling you, he was so open,
Trauma.
and then 5 years later, he's a shut down bird. I'm just saying.
I'm going to just say, I think Cybok gets a pass, just.
Why?
I think they should have passed on Cybok, but go ahead.
Because of his criminal background, I can understand why Spock might not talk about it.
Okay. We live in that era of records to the nth degree, and
No, that's true, but
This is why I say this isn't just Spock. It transcends to Sarek and the way he's raised his way he's done. But look at the Vulcans. The minute you realize that Vulcans and humans had known each other for 100 years, even before they went into a government together, and then another 100 years, 200 years go by, and McCoy still doesn't know about Ponfar in his medical database. How do you? What? And then you see it in Enterprise.
I know in a jovial way, but all that green-blooded inhuman, it's
Well, that's just friends.
just
banter.
teasing.
He was a
Breaking
groomsman.
balls.
Come on, are you
Breaking
kidding?
balls.
You don't
I think
bring
one of the biggest changes with Vulcans is that before it was that they basically train themselves and their whole society is based on logic, and then it became no, they actually are very emotional, and it's about repressing that emotion and choosing logic. And that reframing has always been kind of quite interesting, and I think that works in terms of Cybok rejecting that and choosing to chase.
I actually thought he was an interesting character. It just came out of nowhere. I agree.
No, I don't disagree with that, but
That's one of the
I find the Michael Burnham the Michael
Well, that's
Burnham
just-
introduction is where it starts getting problematic.
Makes
for
no
me.
sense.
Yeah, it's a little jarring. I hear you. Yeah, no, my number one is the USS Enterprise, the refit for the motion picture. What a gorgeous, beautiful ship. I know this is Rich's, orgasmic dream is to watch
People
this in
can
real
listen
life.
back. I won't say a word.
Yeah, and but it's just beautifully reimagined. What they did with Matt Jeffrey's vision is ridiculously gorgeous, right? I think we can all agree that we all had a great time watching that, whether you saw it for the first time on a Blu-ray or a video, or like me in the movie theater opening weekend. It just took something iconic and made it even more iconic. Add in great visual effects, add in that brilliant music, add in the cool whoosh, when it took off. It's great. And then we've had that evolution following on. But it all starts, if we're talking the OG from the series to the OG of the motion picture. It's light years from, what looks like a toy model to an absolutely unbelievable craft that you want to fantasize could fly, right? Could go as fast as, Warp 10
So
or
you were
whatever.
going to say something else about fantasize and Rich then, but
Yeah, well,
in relation to
Not
the
a
Enterprise,
word.
but
we'll let Rich play with that one.
Or the pylons.
So but look, how many people were involved in that, right? You're looking at Harold
Can't remember.
Michelson, you're looking at Andy Probert, you're looking at Richard Taylor, you're looking
You
at
had the
Doug
you had
Trumbull.
the Phase 2 version that was the big leap, was a midway leap.
Yeah, you
Had
had
some elements, but then finished off.
Richard Urgich. Yeah, it was reinvented, retrofitted, refitted, retconned, whatever word you want to use. It was
Yeah.
done beautifully. I would
Yeah.
argue that visually speaking, that was the most consequential change in a lot of things within Star Trek.
Yes.
Because honestly, the Enterprise is as much a character as Kirk, Spock, Pike, anybody that we
Absolutely.
know and love.
Yeah.
Or any of them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's awesome. This is really interesting. If you do want to let us know your thoughts on retcons and canon refits and headcanon even, please do get in contact with us. All the details to do so are available in the description of the episode. But also just to say that very, very soon it will be the big 60th anniversary Star Trek Las Vegas convention from the first week of August, from the 5th. And just to say that at that con, of course, if you're going to be there, you'll be able to see Larry and Ian and myself. I mean, admittedly, in a sliding scale of importance, because Larry and Ian are actually, in it. I will be doing my PhD research. So if you want to be video interviewed about what Star Trek means to you, come and find me on the floor, and we can
Oh,
talk.
interesting. All right.
and Larry, you'll have your table, your booth as usual.
We'll have everything Trekland there in Portal 47 and Trekland Treks, and I've got some. It's in flux. I think I have some panels I know I'm either hosting or presenting or whatever, still to be determined. But yes, we'll be there. Enjoy the landing party. If you're there Tuesday night, come by the Masquerade Bar. It'll be like I think it's the 15th year we've done our trivia team fun stuff. So
is
anyway.
that your big song and dance number, Larry?
Yeah.
Yes,
It
it is. It's I had to get a new straw boater this year and a new cane, but
So feel free to say hello to any of us if you see us at the.
it'll be good
at
to
the
see
con.
you, man.
Yeah.
Well, have you done Vegas before?
I haven't.
There you go. I was just thinking I had not seen. Yeah.
It's going to be an education.
It will be.
Yes, indeed. So thank you all very much, and if we don't see you at the con, we will see you beyond the final frontier.
Larry, thanks for joining us, and peace, love, and logic, everybody.
Yeah. Trek well.
Yeah. Cheers, Larry. Thanks for coming back, and to
Absolutely, guys. It's a blast as always.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with Rich Matthews, Ian Spelling and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Cissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at cissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again, and see you next episode, Beyond the Final Frontier.